how it's going to help or hinder the cause of keeping the UK together, which is what we're all about here. You know, here at A Force for Good, we're British, we love the United Kingdom, we work to keep it together. And that's, as we always say, that's not like something that you can really take a break from, because the people who want to break it up are not taking a break from breaking it up. And it's like a constant battle. Sometimes they're ahead, sometimes we're ahead, sometimes we're relatively even, but we move forward in our respective ways, hoping to persuade as many people in Scotland and throughout the United Kingdom of the merits of keeping the UK together. And so how will this presumably 5-year period of Keir Starmer affect Scotland? Let's have a little consideration about that. And it was fired up by this article, which was written by Magnus Gardam, who was special advisor to former Secretary of State for Scotland, Sir Alistair Jack. And I remember he was also a Herald journalist. And he says, with Labour in power, SNP moaning will get much shorter shrift. And he makes some interesting points here. And he says, the vast bulk of the Tories' time in power pitted a UK government that was unpopular in Scotland against Holyrood that was more popular. It was easy for the SNP to do what it enjoys best, generate friction and foment phony grievances as a means to drive support for independence. It will be harder for them to pursue the same approach with a Labour government that has proved its popularity in Scotland by gubbing them in an election. And that's a good point, because the SNP can't really say, oh, nobody voted for Labour. You know, they used to do that with the Tories, and it wasn't true, because a lot of people did vote for the Tories. Just under the first past the post system, it wasn't necessarily recompensed in seats. But this time it's very clearly been rewarded in seats for Labour. So it's going to be much harder for the SNP to try to pretend that the UK government doesn't have any legitimacy. And he uses the example here of the post-Brexit UK Internal Market Act, which it was intended to ensure a degree of regulatory harmony across the UK and allow the UK government to spend money directly in Scotland on devolved policy areas such as transport or the arts, something that we've always recommended that they do. And as he says here, this is perfectly sensible, which means it is anathema to the SNP. And sure enough, Mr. Swinney demanded during the election that a new Labour government repeal the Act. Well, if he said it to the Prime Minister yesterday, might well have choked on his tea and shortbread as he struggled to suppress a guffaw, because he goes on, his new Scottish Secretary, Ian Murray of Labour, has already spoken of the Scotland office becoming a, quote, spending department, a significant step that would complete what was unfinished business for his predecessor, Sir Alistair Jack. And he spoke about expanding the current £3 billion programme of direct UK government spending in Scotland. So if Labour are going to come in and they're going to spend money directly, they're not going to give it to the middleman. They're going to spend it directly on things that they should spend it on, which will help people to appreciate the values, the direct values of the union. Then that's all to the good, isn't it? And he talks here about Swinney. He says, the political threat hanging over Swinney is clear. Gripe and grievance from the SNP would provoke a simple response from Keir Starmer. For example, quote, we've tried our best, but these guys really are impossible to work with. What Scotland needs is a different government at Holyrood. And all that would do, of course, is help Scottish Labour in their attempts to win in 2026. So you've got Swinney there, stuck. He's stuck. He's stuck. And a referendum is off the agenda for the short term. But as others and we have also noted, things can turn very fast, and it can depend upon how badly the Labour government at the UK level do, or if they do some kind of game-changing thing, such as Blair did. Blair was cruising along until he made the faux pas of, well, slightly more than a faux pas. It was called the Iraq War, and Labour support just plummeted. And so if Starmer were to make such a mistake, whether in Europe or the Middle East, then again, you would see Labour support plummet in Scotland. So I hope he's aware of those sorts of things.